Director of Strategic, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Housing with the Ministry of Seniors, Community and Social Services. I have Jarrett Hiles with me today, as well as Lena Dale, our Manager of Housing Policy. And we're really excited to tell you about this new benefit that just launched this week. So it's a bit of a soft launch for reasons that I'll get into, but the benefit is live, it's in the world. And we wanted the FCSS organizations to know about it in case it comes up. And also so that you just have it in your toolbox of things that you can refer people to. Okay. So gender-based violence, just a bit of background on this program. This is a federal provincial joint program, so it's a cost match program. The federal government is funding this under the Canada Housing Benefit, but it's also very much aligned with its National Action Plan to end gender-based violence. So per the National Action Plan, gender-based violence is anything based on gender norms and unequal power dynamics perpetrated against someone based on their gender, gender expression, gender identity, or perceived gender. They take a very encompassing definition of violence, including psychological, financial, emotional abuse. And when we talk about gender-based, we're talking about women, girls, and members of the 2S LGBTQI+ community who have experienced violence. But again, the definition is very encompassing. So anyone who is experiencing violence because of unequal power dynamics or gender norms or the inversion thereof is someone who would be eligible for this benefit. So what is the benefit? So the Canada Housing Benefit for survivors of gender-based violence is meant to support with housing costs for people who are leaving situations in which they're facing gender-based violence. The money that we're providing can be used for relocation and housing startup costs. So the basics such as paying your damage deposit, furnishing your new house, breaking your previous lease, all of these things, all of the different components that go into starting up a household, you can use this money for any of it. Again, it is a joint benefit delivered through the Canada Housing Benefit as part of the National Housing Strategy. And as mentioned, we launched it earlier this week. So we agreed to 32.9 million over 5 years, which is cost shared. So the province fronts 32.9 million, and then the federal government gives us 32.9 as well. We signed the agreement at the end of December 2023, so we just didn't have the ability to roll it out in fiscal 23-24, which means that we just took the money and allocated across the next 4 years. So for this year, we have 6.1 million to spend. As you can see, that ramps up pretty significantly beginning next year. In 27-28, we expect that we should be spending 9.2 million on this benefit. So when we talk about eligibility, we have this very broad definition of gender-based violence and who might be experiencing gender-based violence. So we are trying to seek, for the purposes of this, some alignment with our affordable housing strategy, Stronger Foundations, which identifies groups of people who may have more challenges and face more barriers in finding and maintaining affordable housing. And so that includes women and children fleeing violence, particularly those who are staying in a second stage shelter for extended periods of time, Indigenous women who we know are at much higher risk of experiencing gender-based violence, 2S LGBTQI+ youth who may not be safe living with their family of origin and may be street involved already and engaging in risk-taking behaviors in order to stay housed or something that looks like housing, and youth exiting government care who tend to experience violence at higher rates than other population groups. So this benefit is substantially different in some ways from the other two benefits that we currently deliver under the Canada Housing Benefit Agreement. So we have the rent assistance benefit, which is our long-term deeper subsidy rent assistance plan, and then the temporary rent assistance benefit, which is targeted to people who have been engaged in the labor market in the last year or 2 years, and is more of a shallow short-term subsidy. Both of those are tied to income and eligibility requirements outlined in our sort of suite of legislation and regulation. For this benefit, we took a fundamentally different approach, and we just got rid of sort of the other parts of eligibility for a couple of reasons. So eligibility requirements are functionally that you are experiencing gender-based violence and are in need of new housing, and B, you are actively seeking to make new arrangements for yourself and transition to in a different part of your life. You're on your way out. You just need some support getting to the next phase. The only kind of stipulation we do have is that you cannot be receiving another benefit underneath the Canada Housing Agreement, and you cannot be in social housing simply because those benefits are already covered by the same agreement, and also social housing is covered by the benefit as well, the Canada Housing Agreement. So the reason that we chose not to include income thresholds and asset testing in this benefit is that we know there's a significant gap for middle income families already in terms of who can access benefits. And we also know that gender-based violence, particularly when it's directed towards women and women and children, includes an element of financial abuse. So on paper, somebody might be able to afford their own apartment. In reality, they may not even have access to their own bank accounts. As such, we just thought, let's remove as many barriers as possible in creating this benefit and throw the doors wide open to support a group of people who generally have trouble accessing the supports they need. Rates and duration. So because it is a cost match program, it's modeled after what the province is already spending. Our cost match is the income support and AISH escaping abuse benefit portfolio. So provincially, whatever we spend is sort of what we can claim and get back from the feds. When we modeled out based on what we generally spend in a given year on that portfolio of benefits, it amounted to about $7,200 per year per household with household targets. So I think over the course of the benefit, we are supposed to serve approximately 4,000 households through this program. $7,200 per year, regardless of the household's annual income or asset value, will be spent on everybody who applies for the benefit, is eligible, and is chosen to receive it. We have worked with our partners who are delivering the benefit to sort of come up with different arrangements. So we initially had it as a flat rate benefit. We're delivering it through housing management bodies, one in the north, one in the south, Savita in Edmonton for the city of Red Deer Red Deer County North, and the Lethbridge Housing Authority for everything south of the Red Deer County line. And what they told us is that different households have different needs. So $600 or $1,200 a month might not actually meet the needs of everybody. So they will work with the eligible applicants to determine what their household needs are and determine how much they'll receive over the course of 1 year to a maximum of $7,200. It is a 1-year benefit. At the end of the period in which they've received the maximum amount of funding, whether that's 6 months or a year, they may be eligible to move into RAB or TRAB. They would need to apply with the housing management body that is responsible for whichever city or town municipality they live in. But although it is technically a one-time benefit, you can only receive it once in a calendar year. Recipients are able to apply again in future years if they are eligible. So this is something that we heard from stakeholders in designing the benefit as well. It often takes several attempts to leave. Sometimes you leave, you're in a different relationship where some of the same patterns repeat. And so there is no real sort of clause that says this is a once in a lifetime benefit. It's strictly once per year. And then the management bodies, Savita and Lethbridge Housing Authority, are responsible for doing the agreements and making the payments to households who are eligible for the benefit. So again, it is like every other benefit we have through our agreement with the federal government, paid directly to survivors of gender-based violence. It's portable, again, direct to household. They're meant to address housing need. We don't really have any sort of mechanism for determining what people are doing with the money, because it's really meant to be more of an income supplement meant to help support housing costs. But our stipulation would be when people are signing agreements that this is for the purposes of setting up your household. And recipients can choose to live pretty much anywhere as long as it's not social housing and they're not in receipt of RAP or TRAP. So they can live in a private rental, they can be in an affordable housing unit that is not social housing, where the rent isn't tied to a specific schedule or income. And homeowners are also eligible. So if somebody has a mortgage and they need support paying that, that is also totally in scope, and we are happy to support people who have homes as well. So the pathway into this is sort of on a referral basis, which is why we are making this presentation to you today. We heard pretty clearly when working with our stakeholders on this, that this is a group of people who, again, face a lot of barriers and may need extra support from community organizations as they sort of make a plan to leave and change whatever's happening in their world. And as such, we decided that we would do this on a referral basis. So there's sort of 4 key pathways through which people might be referred into the benefit program. The first one, because it's our cost match and there's already a process in place to match people with the emergency benefits they need, is through our income support and AISH program. So if somebody is talking to an AISH or an income support worker and they identify that they are eligible for emergency benefits, they may be referred to this program. Youth exiting care who have experienced gender-based violence will be identified by their caseworkers in Children and Family Services and can be referred in by their social workers. And the HMBs, Savita and Lethbridge, may also receive referrals directly from organizations. So organizations can sort of do 2 things. They can use the online referral portal that Jarrett is going to show you when I'm done talking, or they can contact the HMBs directly and say, hey, I have somebody here who's ready to leave second stage shelter. They're just really struggling to get the money together for a damage deposit, and that referral process would work as well. And then the sort of 4th one is self-referral. So somebody who is a gender-based survivor and already has a Safer Spaces certificate, something they would have needed to be able to break a lease, can apply for the benefit directly. They can go to the 2 HMBs delivering it and say, hey, I've left my lease, I need support, here's my Safer Spaces certificate. Oh, okay, stop sharing. There we go. So that's sort of the program in a nutshell, and its various referral pathways. I can take questions about the design now before I turn it over to Jarrett to show you how the web referral form works, or we can turn it over to Jarrett and let him show it, and then we can just take questions at the end. Does anybody have any questions that they want answered before we show you the portal for referrals?
I was wondering if all of those screen shares we'll be able to have access to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't think I see any other questions. So Jarrett, if you are online, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thanks. I do see one in the chat real quickly, Erin. I don't know if you want to take it right now. It's asking
Yes.
What's the contact number to call if there is no referral?
Yeah, great question. So couple of options. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I've heard about this benefit, I would like access to it, this is my situation, I think there are sort of 2 really good options and 2 pathways available. One, you can refer them to an organization, and Jarrett will show you in his sort of demonstration of how the referral process works. We have a list of preloaded organizations in the drop-down menu. Thank you so much. I just got a coffee delivery. Thank you, Susan. We have a drop-down menu of organizations that work with this population, people who are likely to experience gender-based violence. So it's preloaded with women's shelters, sexual violence prevention organizations, family violence prevention organizations, youth emergency shelters. Feel free to refer them to a resource in your community if you feel like they need that extra support and the warm handoff to help them plan whatever is next for them. Or you can contact Lethbridge or Savita directly. So when I send the slides to Melissa for distribution, I'll make sure I include an additional slide with the contact information for the 2 housing management bodies delivering the program.
Okay, thanks, Erin. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen here. Let's say it comes up. I believe everybody should be able to see that. Yeah, so what we have here is the referral form that is available to you. So as Erin was mentioning, there's a few different pathways here. If you're going to do a referral to one of the organizations that specialize in working with these individuals, you can definitely do that. If you do want to reach out to Savita and Lethbridge, this is an option for you to use. This will redirect the information you provide to the appropriate provider just based on where that individual is living. So on here, it's just a bit of a preamble around all the information that Erin just already mentioned. So talks about, the definition of gender-based violence in this context. There's some information for community agencies here. And then there's some stuff for AISH, which is a little bit specific. But if you just click on that start form, all that we're looking for to be able to pass on to the HMB is information around the individual. So for example, just a name, where they're living. We do have a fairly comprehensive list of municipalities here. However, there is a possibility that some of the small unincorporated communities or something of the like is not in here. So we do say, you know, if you can't find the specific location where they're living for some reason, please just pick the next closest one. As Erin mentioned, this is really just to make sure we send the individuals correctly, whether to Savita or to Lethbridge Housing Authority. So as long as you're picking something that's in the appropriate region, but ideally we also would like to understand where they are living today. And then on the preferred contact method, so there's two options here. You can put in an email or phone number. You can put in both if they're willing to share both of those. We are looking to understand for the purposes of the HMB to know which one is their preferred number. If neither is a appropriate option because of the situation they're in, you can indicate that they can contact your organization and the person filling this in instead of the client. So if that's an appropriate situation where you don't want them, they don't feel comfortable sharing that information, or they're worried that that might be monitored, then you can do that as well. Again, you can put in one or both. I'll just put in both in this case. Or neither, if you pick the contact or referring representative. As Erin mentioned, we do have a list of all those organizations that she mentioned, so you can see these ones here as well. In your cases, if you were filling this out for yourselves to send off to the HMB, you won't be in this, so you can say, I cannot find my organization, and then you could put in the appropriate organization name here. And then again, the name of the person doing this, and if they need to reach out to you, what that preferred contact method would be. So again, you can put in either or both. One is optional, depending on which one you say is the preferred contact method. And then the last piece here is just making sure that you've, you know, if this is something that you're looking to pass on, just making sure that the, you know, based on your understanding of the situation, they meet the gender-based violence definition. And then B, the client's also consented to share their information with that housing management body to pursue the benefit. So if you click next on that, you'll get a chance just to quickly review everything. If you see anything wrong, you can make a change here real quick. And once that's all done, just hit submit at the bottom. Once the submission's done, I'll let it spin for a second, but once the submission's done, a couple things will come up. There'll be a little bit of instructions on where this is going and what you can provide back to the client. Additionally, there's also a referral number that you can provide to them. So you can see here, there's this referral number we called submission ID. So that's something you can provide to the client, just gives them a frame of reference if they are going to interact with the housing management body. You can see here, we went for Calgary. So Lethbridge Housing Authority is the organization, and it talks about the next steps. So Lethbridge Housing will contact the client using their preferred method, or if it was the situation where you said contact you as the organization, then that's what they'd be doing. They may also contact you to ask further questions, just depending on the nature of the situation. And then again, if you provide that submission number, so they have that frame of reference, and then this is all the details that you submitted. Any questions on the referral tool? Okay, seeing none right now. I will put in the chat as well a link to the live tool. So I'm on the test site currently. You guys can bookmark that URL if you wish. Erin, Erin could probably provide that in the follow-up email with the content as well.
Thank you, Jarrett. So once this process is done, the referral has been made. There is no secondary application form for eligible applicants to fill out. So it will be deposited directly in the inboxes of Lethbridge Housing Authority or Savita, and they'll take it from there. So they'll pull applications, they'll contact the referring organization to ask any questions they might have, and then they will get in contact with the person who has applied and talk to them about their situation, what their unique needs are, and sign an agreement with them. So we recognize that people who are leaving situations of gender-based violence often have very fluid situations where they may not have access to whatever they need to go and fill out a different application form. So we try to make this as seamless as possible, which means they just need to talk to somebody in the community, come up with a plan, find the supports they need, and then the HMB will take it from there. Okay, I think that's it for our presentation. Are there any questions that we can answer? Yes, Carly.
I had just noticed on the form, it just it says there's no specified time frame from the time of the application submission to the time that the client would be contacted. Do
Yeah.
you have just a ballpark? Because I know that's likely going to be a question. How long, is this going to take? Is it going to be a couple days, weeks, months? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, right now, so part of the reason that this is a very soft launch is because we're in a blackout period for communications with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation because of the federal budget. So it needs to be a joint announcement. We expect that the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure and our minister will be announcing this in early May. At that point, I think it will pick up steam pretty significantly. What we've done for administrative costs is we have funded staff in both of the housing management bodies to manage this program specifically. So there are eyes on the inbox that the applications go to daily, and they're downloaded pretty quickly. At this point, I would say there's like a 3-hour gap between the time they're submitted and when they're downloaded. So they are reviewing them all day during business hours. As the program picks up steam, I sort of suspect the time between application and contact will extend. We don't really have a benchmark, but we would expect that a week would probably be the maximum time between application and contact. This is a benefit program that's only worth 6.1 million in the first year. It is not a lot of money. So when both HMBs have spent their allotment, whatever the 3 million and some change that they both get, the application portal will close. So we don't want people hanging in limbo. When the money is spent, it's spent. If they happen to contact the HMB directly, the HMB will help them navigate the process of determining whether they're eligible for other housing programs, including community housing, wrap and trap, and might refer them to the HMB in the municipality they live in.
Just on that, will there be any sort of, I guess, like announcement once those funds are gone? Like when we go to this portal, let's say in a few months, and let's say those funds are gone, is it going to let us know actually this program it's closed for the year?
Yeah, there will be a landing page that says, hey, all gone, sorry. And then it will redirect to a list of other resources. So 211, housing management bodies, find housing, all of that will be available on the landing page when money is spent. Okay, I think there are a couple of questions in the chat. Would a woman from Brenda, would a woman fleeing violence who is not in second stage housing be eligible? Yep, absolutely. So the shelters, including second stage shelters, are one of the referral pathways simply because we already fund them and they have those contacts and relationships. But if they come to you or another community organization looking for support, then yes, they can be referred in. And then and if so, where does the form and information get saved? Jared, do you want to talk to the information management piece behind this?
Yeah, sure. So we temporarily store it until the HMBs are able to access the information and download it. Once they download it, we set a timer on it so that we remove all the personally identifiable information that we collected as part of it, and then it's just kept with the HMBs as part of their process.
Yep, the program is active. So as of April 15th, it's live. I think we've received, as of this morning, 26 applications. Diana, are individuals who identify as male who are in violent situations eligible? Just double checking. Yeah, absolutely. So this applies to men who are trying to leave situations of domestic violence, whether their partner is same sex or their partner is female. This also applies to trans men as well. So anyone who is in a situation where they're facing domestic violence, sexual violence because of gender dynamics or their gender identity, yeah, absolutely. Does receiving income support from a First Nation impact eligibility, Valerie? No. Again, it's not income or needs tested. So we're really kind of neutral on how much someone has in terms of income or assets. If they're receiving income support from the province, also not a problem. So no, that doesn't impact eligibility. Just wasn't sure, say assist with housing costs. Yeah, absolutely. So again, that's totally fine. We recognize in the current housing market, extra support is absolutely needed and appreciated for people who are leaving on an emergency basis. So that's not an issue for us. Sarah?
Hi. Oh, it's just going to you, Daniel. Hi. I'm just wondering too, is there, like when it comes to after submitting the form and the client, the individual's contacted, is there a like intake process similar to like income support that they'll have to go through over the phone, or what does that look like for?
Yeah, so there will be a bit of a process, but again, it's pretty streamlined.
Okay.
It's not quite as extensive as income support because we don't need to know what their income and assets are.
Okay.
The HMB will ask them questions about where they're living now. They'll collect their banking information, social insurance number for the purposes of issuing a tax slip at the end of the year.
Okay.
It's not a taxable benefit, but it is one that just needs to be reported, so a tax form will be generated. So they will contact them and get some personal information from them, including stuff like banking information, but
Okay.
it won't be an extensive intake process.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Can clients call directly, or should they be assessed by a service provider? So yes, with some caveats. So we've had this discussion with the two HMBs. If someone arrives directly to them looking for support and they're explaining their situation and it sounds like they could benefit from the survivors of gender-based violence benefit, then yes, the HMBs are able to make that call. Our preference is that there is some kind of warm handoff from a community organization that knows how to sort of navigate the system and help somebody look for additional supports based on what their circumstances might be. So ideally, where possible, such as FCSS, yeah. So if they're working with you and you've provided them with some information and access to other supports they may require, then you can refer them in if you wish through that form. You can call the HMB and say, I have this person here, or you can refer them directly to the HMB. The only limitation around referring someone directly is that both of them are covering very wide geographic areas. And so it might be difficult for someone to just sort of stroll in the Savita office if they're in Granbury, right? But they're always welcome to call them and the HMB can help them sort of sort it out from there. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat. I will share these slides with Melissa and I will include the contact information for both Savita and Lethbridge Housing Authority. And I will also include my email as well. If you have questions as the program starts rolling out, or if you think of anything else, please feel free to contact me directly. I'm happy to take any questions about it. We're very excited about this work and we're quite excited to see where we can go with it. So thank you everybody for attending. Melissa, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Erin and Jared. That was really interesting. And like Erin mentioned, we will share out the information when we have it. If for some reason you don't receive it, please contact our office and we'll make sure it's available to everyone to share. And have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Take care.
Remember birthday income. Name.